What's up, my comic comrades? Today we are finishing out the epic Predator vs. Black Panther series with issues 3 and 4. It has been great thus far, dealing with the Predators invading Wakanda, wanting to take their vibranium. Last we left off, the Predators found the Great Mound, the source of vibranium, looking to claim it for their own. So let's see where things go from here. Issue 3 picks up with the Predator clan leader staring at the vibranium inside of the Great Mound. As the caption says, this was power. The Yautja imagined he could feel the energy of the vibranium pulsing down his arm, sleeving his bones, armoring his skin. He imagined his body as the center of an arsenal that bristled with weapons and travels in warships. He imagined sitting on a throne of vibranium as his brother's skull decorated his trophy wall. As we see the Predators mining the Great Mound, taking its vibranium. But we are then taken to the surface as we see a Predator kill a lion and melt its flesh, taking its skull as a trophy. He and his hunting party would take everything they could from this place, from the precious metal that hid below to the prized trophies that wandered above. But right then a spear goes through his heart, as a caption says, but these hunters were hunted in turn. Okoye knew these jungles and mountains and savanna as she knew her own body, and she would fight and purge these invaders from it as if they were a cancer. 3 of them were dead by her spear so far. The Predator then falls to the jungle floor as Black Panther jumps down, saying each of us almost died a dozen times over. These Predators caught us unguarded before, but now we know the face of our enemy. He then says we have learned they are hunters, but there are many places to hunt on Earth. So why come to Wakanda? What else might they collect? It is as we've always feared. They want vibranium. We must go to the Great Mound. The comic then takes us just outside of Wakanda's border as we see Shuri as she's being grabbed by the head by a Predator and being pulled through Wakanda's force fields. The Magi tries to help her, pulling her back, but the Predator just uses one of his blades to stab him right in the stomach. As he looks down, holding his blood, he tells Shuri, all water is connected to other water, Shuri, just as all blood is connected to other blood. She just looks at him in the face saying, get back, as the Predator puts a spear right through his head, killing him. She then says, damn you, as she's still fighting off the Predator trying to pull her in. She then screams, you fight like a coward. Come out and face me. And then she's able to pull the Predator out to fight him, saying, if you need to hide to kill, that makes you a coward. I'm not afraid of cowards. I'm so sorry, my friend, as she pulls the spear out of the Magi's head to fight the Predator. She then proceeds to fight the Predator, as captions say Shuri's comms no longer connected her to Wakanda, but the channels of the outside were listening. She decided to ask for what her kingdom had never given or required. As she continues to fight the Predator, getting cut in the arm, she says, whoever might be listening, this is Princess Shuri of Wakanda. We are under attack and my nation needs your help. We then jump back to Black Panther, remembering when he got shot and knocked out by a Predator earlier on in the series. Captions say when the Yautja struck him with a shoulder cannon, when he fell into the swamp and the mud swallowed him, when the darkness came and he visited the astral plane, we see T'Challa talk to his grandfather and former Black Panther. His grandfather says they called me Azuri the Wise, but I know they used other words to describe me as well. Hostile, paranoid, guarded. There was a good reason for this. The world was at war, but the threat came from more than Nazi Germany. People look up when they speak of heaven, but hell can also come from the same direction. T'Challa asks, Wakanda has fought these enemies before, grandfather? Referring to the Predators. His grandfather says, I am sad to say yes, as we get glimpses of the Predators' past with Wakanda. Azuri says they came to hunt, but they stayed for the vibranium. Close to 500 of us died before it was all over. We burned their bodies, but we studied their weapons. Their cloaking technology helped inspire the perimeter shield, as did their greed for blood and vibranium. I was called an isolationist, but you can perhaps understand why. I want to protect my people not just from these Predators, but from all Predators, and I am sad to say that task now falls to you, grandson. If I am certain of anything, it is this. There will be nothing but bones and ashes left of Wakanda if these Predators have their way. You must stop them. The Panther must win. As we see the Predators loading vibranium onto their ship at the Great Mound. But as they're doing so, Panther back in the present ambushes several of the Predators, as Panther tells Okoye, they caught us unaware before, but surprise is our weapon. Follow me into the dark of the mines. Captions then tell us, in his fear, the king had made a mistake. One of the guards still lived. And even though Wakanda's comms were jammed, the Yautja's connections remained live. They knew that the Black Panther was coming, and they were ready for blood, as we see their leader and other Predators prepare for Panther's arrival. We are then taken outside of Wakanda's border again, where we see Shuri has beaten the Predator. The captions tell us she felt no satisfaction in her victory, knowing a larger war was underway inside the walls of her own kingdom. What were they? How many of them were there? From where had they come? She would not stand by idly. As we see her take the Predator's mask off, she says, you're as ugly as you smell. Captions continue to say she recognized the helmet as more than just armor. It was a computer, as she puts it on to interrogate its interface. Perhaps she could return to Wakanda and meet the enemy on its own terms. But first, something was coming, as we see the Falcon arrive answering her distress call. She asks, who are you? He says, Falcon, Captain America sent me to Africa to shut down a weapons dealer. Happened to be working on some recon 100 clicks northwest of here. Picked up an SOS tied to these coordinates from someone calling themselves Princess Shuri. But you sure don't look like a princess, as she stares at him wearing the Predator's helmet holding a spear. And with that, issue 3 comes to an end, so let's jump jump into the fourth and final issue, the climax of the series. Issue 4 starts off at the Great Mound in Wakanda, where we see Black Panther tell the Dora Milaje and War Dogs this tunnel leads into the heart of the mines where our enemy is awaiting, but we must stop here. Okoye asks, "What is it, my king?" He says, "Move into the maintenance hatch." Okoye, Achille, do you remember our training session yesterday? How I picked you all off one by one, sticking to the shadows? Sometimes there is strength in numbers. Other times there is weakness. I fear this is one of the latter. We are too exposed in the main tunnel. These predators so far has bested us with surprise. Now we will use the same tactic against them. The mine is piped through with air for ventilation. This is how we descend to the main level of the mine. Achille, you and your dog take up the rear. As we see them enter the tunnels, captions say, but one of the war dogs linger in the tunnel, where he sensed he was being observed, which he was by a predator drone. So he follows it and says, I spit in the eye of my enemy. Shooting it down, the caption says, as the war dog rushed forward, he triggered a mine stationed on the tunnel wall. The lasers cut through him as cleanly as a blade through water, as we see all 4 of his limbs get sliced off. It's pretty gory. Achille had almost dropped into the air shaft when he heard the war dog calling for him, as he runs over to his soldier saying, it's okay, go with peace to your ancestors, knowing that I will avenge your death. I will kill them. I will kill every last one of them. I swear, as a predator sneaks up behind him. We are then taken outside to the Wakandan perimeter shield, where we see Falcon and Princess Shuri are still getting acquainted. He's like, so you're currently being invaded by aliens? She says yes. He then says, I mean, this would all feel a little bit out of this world if it wasn't for this giant stinking piece of ugly, as he looks at the dead predator she just killed. He then asks, you said you needed help. What could I do? She says, if you could shut your American mouth for a minute, that would be much appreciated. As she hacks into the predator's helmet, clearly devising some sort of plan. She then puts the helmet on once again, saying their technology hacked ours, so I'm going to hack theirs right back. I can only assume they're monitoring our security channels. If one of them stepped out of the shield, then one of them will step it back in. I see that your suit has a magnetic drive. I assume the augmenter is capable of GPS jamming. But what about hard light configuration of your wings? Can you use them to block light for tracking? He says, yeah. As he grabs her to start flying, she says, good, because we'll need that. So clearly she has a plan. We then see Black Panther and Okoye get out of the ventilation system, with Panther saying, go quiet as mice. But he stumbles upon Achille's body. As captions say, he recognized the body that slid down the air shaft, even if it no longer had its head. Achille's voice called to him then, but it was hollow and disembodied. A recording saying, I will kill every last one of them. I swear. Black Panther then says, Okoye, they know we're here. And at that moment, one of the Dora Milaje vanished in a red spray. Okoye didn't have time to mourn because death was coming for her next. Training became instinct as she throws a dagger to disarm the predator that just killed her friend. Meanwhile, Black Panther starts fighting another predator as we see both Panther and Okoye fight predators. Narration tells us the predators were bigger and the predators outnumbered them, but the Panther had the strength of a nation in his claws. Okoye says they're holding their position. Maybe that means they're finished. Panther says, or maybe that means they're obeying the commands of another. As we see their leader come flying in, captions say, this Panther understood was the true fight, their king, as Panther comes face to face with their king for the first time. The comic continues to say the Yautja removed his helmet and revealed his naked hunger. Okoye tells Panther, get behind me, my king, but he tells her, you are always there for me, Okoye, but I sense this must be my fight. He then deactivates his vibranium armor as she begs him not to, but he tells her, honor demands it. Lend me your strength by lending me your spear. This one has something to prove, and perhaps so do I after being bested before. The two kings then turn and face each other before lunging at one another with nothing but spears. Captions then say, face to face, skin to skin they fought. There was more than a kingdom at stake. There was pride. At first, Black Panther gets the upper hand, knocking the Predator King on his butt with a spear to his throat, asking, do you yield? But the disgrace that Yautja had felt his entire life came crashing down on him, and the captions tell us that he would not allow his father or any king to humiliate him further, as he forgets his pride and uses his wrist blade to slice off one of Black Panther's legs. With Panther now grievously wounded, the Yautja ordered his soldiers back to their ships. But the book says the Yautja did not run, they repositioned. They had the vibranium they came for, and they would return to this battle at a later date stronger than before. Or so they thought, because on the next page we see Falcon and Shuri flying toward the Yautja ship, with Shuri wearing the helmet and gauntlet of the predator they defeated. Captions then tell us Wakanda had flourished in isolation. They had neither offered help to the world nor asked for it, but that policy had abruptly changed. They had made enemies, but so had they made allies. The ship then takes off, so Falcon flies Shuri close enough for her to drive one of the predator's gauntlet blades into the side of the ship. Then while Falcon flies ahead and attempts to fire into the cockpit, the book tells us Shuri didn't know whether her brother was dead or alive, and she didn't know what sort of ruin awaited her below. She only knew that the alien vessel had launched off the Great Mound, which seemed to be a clear indication of a heist, a vibranium heist. She and Falcon were the last lines of defense. Shuri then activates the weapon on the gauntlet and lets go while screaming for Falcon, so Falcon dives down and catches her, thinking they had failed and the predators had escaped. But Shuri basically says, wait for it, as we see the gauntlet countdown until they reach orbit, at which point the ship explodes in space. But just before the ship exploded captions tell us that the prideful Yautja king could not help himself. In the reckless heat of his escape, he blasted out a message warning his brother that he was coming home to win back his honor, with god metal and with blood. But nothing survived the blast but the vibranium and the greed it originally inspired. We then see his brother and father with vibranium floating around their ship, who clearly received the message. As captions say, the Predator King and his favorite son tracked the message of warning sent their way. What they found claimed their full attention. God metal, they called it. There was enough to develop and advance their arsenal into one that would rival any in the cosmos, including Earth's. Which closes out this story with the setup for the next, and on the next page we get the surprise reveal of Predator vs. Spider-Man as the continuation for this series in 2025, which might be the most amazing entry in this series by Benjamin Percy. And that's how you do a reveal. No press spoilers, just drop it within the series as a true reveal for the fans. Gotta love that. But there you have it, friends. As expected, this concluded with a setup for the next book, but the surprise was that Black Panther and Wakanda effectively lost this one and was left severely damaged in the end. The Predators got away with the vibranium, and while Shuri was able to destroy the Yautja's escaping ship, the god metal fell into the hands of the Yautja king and his favorite son, who now plan to build an arsenal to rival Earth with it. So yeah, I'd call that a loss. Also, Black Panther lost his leg in the fight, like a whole leg. So is he gonna get a robotic one and show up later in the series to seek redemption? I don't know, but I'm stupid excited to find out. Overall, like the Predator vs. Wolverine title, this mini-series was just a lot of fun, and I have to imagine that all of these individual versus books are going to lead to a bigger Predator vs. Avengers book of some kind. And sweet baby Buddha, we're 100% here for it. Again, we have Predator vs. Spider-Man on deck, and that's just kind of glorious. Anyway, what did you guys think of this series? Are you excited for the Predator vs. Spider-Man title and more Predator vs. stories in general? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, we will see you next time when we talk about all things comics.